Is it too late to start playing Legion? One of the biggest questions I get asked all the time. Is it too late to re-roll? Legion from the outside, if you didn't join when it actually launched, looks really off-putting, especially if you browse forums and you hear like, everybody has 54 traits with tens of millions of AP. Everyone's got 5 or 6 legendary items. They farmed thousands of dungeons in order to get this stuff. There's no way I can possibly catch up. So Blizzard's done a lot to actually make that not true, but I think the community perception, something we've been tackling recently, is not really coming through there. So we're going to look at it today and see whether or not if you join now, is it relatively easy to catch up or is it a big pain in the ass? And also what Blizzard's about to do very, very shortly to make it even easier for you. Alright guys, so let's have a quick look. Alright, so obviously this is targeted at guys who aren't playing. So a lot of you who are playing and have been playing will know a lot of this stuff. But good God, it's for those guys who are like, mate, not buying another WoW expansion, mate. And then they're looking at it going, mate, I might have to buy a WoW expansion. So let's start with AP, because if you visit any forums, if you visit MMO or anything like that, that's where you're going to see the rage and the moaning and the whining and all that kind of stuff. It's particularly about artifact power. What is artifact power all about? Well, obviously in Legion, we don't get weapon drops anymore. What you actually get is a quest to pick up an artifact weapon, and then you empower that weapon. You put relics in it to increase its item level, and of course you invest artifact power into it. Now, artifact power is a burden for a lot of people. Or more realistically, it's seen as a burden. It's not really a burden. It's not. Particularly if you're thinking of re-rolling. The big problem is, right now, the artifact power can go, or the artifact traits in your weapon, every time you invest artifact power, you can buy a trait. And they go up to 54, which costs tens of millions of artifact power. And when you log into Legion, you're going to notice things like you're getting items that give you 5 artifact power and stuff like that, which is not ideal. And can be very off-putting. What I'm here to tell you is you don't need to worry about that too much. Hey, which is good news. It breaks down into 2 things. First of all, there's something called artifact knowledge. Okay, so artifact knowledge is a system that runs alongside your artifact weapon. You can unlock it when you cap. And essentially what you do is you use order resources, which you pick up a ton of while leveling. Rare mobs drop them, world quests drop them, all these kind of things. They're super cheap. But every couple of days, you will get a new artifact knowledge level, up to a cap of 25 right now, right? So what that does is actually allow you to get more AP per item. So when an item, like I said, drops 5 at your next artifact level, it'll drop like 25 and so on until you get to where we are now, which is like every day you'll get about 700,000 artifact power on the map. So your next thing is like, well, doesn't that take forever? Wasn't it 5 days? Yeah, but alongside that, Blizzard has had this catch-up system in place where as long as the server's been running or the expansion's been out, the duration it takes to get each AK level, we'll call them, has reduced. So it's now down to 2.5 days. Which means you're going to catch up really quickly. It also means you're going to have to do far less content in order to get a lot of traits. Alongside this as well, if you're not fresh and you actually started at the beginning of Legion or you did some then and now you're coming back, they introduced tomes of catch-up essentially, which means you can send these to any of your alts and it'll instantly boost up the artifact knowledge levels, which means you just, from the start, get loads of artifact power. So if you have like 25 artifact knowledge, which you can get pretty quickly now, you can get a full weapon's worth of traits in a couple of hours. That's pretty easily been done several times. Even if you're not trying hard, it only takes a few days of basic play to get that done. Now, what about the 54 though? That's the tens of millions. You're not going to get that very quickly. No, you're not. But the good news is 7.2 is around the corner. And what's happening there, and a lot of people aren't really appreciating this, is they're equalizing everybody on the servers. Okay, so you're not going to be miles behind. Right now, you can feel miles behind. But what actually happens is once you get your 35th trait, that's all the traits of spell augments. That's all done. After that, you have these 19 extra levels, which just boost damage right now. They just give you more damage, which means, I feel like I'm miles behind on damage. In 7.2, they're going to refund everybody out of that and bring it back down to 35. Okay? So we'll get all of us who have 54, we'll get it all refunded, but we'll all still have the exact same amounts of traits. This also means that if you never got more than 37, 38, whatever, you'll be brought to the same level as the guys who had 54. Now, the best thing about this is you're still probably going to think, I'm still tens of millions of AP behind. That won't actually matter in 7.2 because artifact knowledge is going to be increased even further, which means every bang for your buck is going to be more. With the points in 7.2 costing like 22 million once you've spent 1 or 2 of the new points because there's going to be new traits in 7.2, what you'll actually find is tens of millions doesn't mean a whole lot. After just getting a couple of the new artifact knowledge quests, or new artifact knowledge levels, I was getting, one quest was rewarding over 1 million AP. Okay? It very quickly boosts itself up. So the good news is AP ain't that big of a goddamn deal at all, in any way, shape, or form. Doesn't really matter. You're going to get caught up in 7.2 real easily. The only mission that you'll have is to get the 35 traits with the catch-up system in terms of the speed of gaining artifact knowledge. Whether or not you already had some in place in the first place means you're going to catch up very quickly. You got to remember, everybody's been frozen at this artifact knowledge 25, and people are going to be brought down to traits 35, and therefore you are easily going to be able to catch up. So don't worry about that too much. The other one is gear. Gear's a tricky one because gear comes down to how you play the game, and do you have any friends, pretty much? Do you know people? You can get more gear in an afternoon than somebody who has been playing since the launch of Legion, depending on how you approach the game. If your intent is playing solo and doing the pug life, gear's going to take a while, just as it's always done. This isn't a Legion problem, this is just a general WoW situation. If you're going to try and play on your own, then yeah, sure, you're going to run into these issues with gear. If you have some friends who are waiting for you to come back, who've been mithering for you to come back, or you join a community guild like ours, or you join some friends, or at least you spend, it always boggles my mind, you can spend 20 hours running pugs, or you can spend a couple of hours or 3 hours trying to find a reasonable guild that's doing something that you want to do, and that's going to get you gear. The advantage in Legion is the Mythic Plus system. The Mythic Plus system gets you raid quality gear relatively quickly, and you can run them endlessly if you want to. So if you're looking to do a quick reroll and get as much gear as possible, Mythic Plus is for you. And also, if you're fresh to the game, you want to get into the Mythic Plus system, I just do not recommend pugging it. Check our videos on what it's like to pug that shit. No. So the last one then that affects rerolls and newcomers to the game, and is probably again the most off-putting thing, is of course the Legos. Those orangey items. Okay, so the issue with rerolling our freshcomers is the Legos. It's the one thing that is completely out of your control, but it is out of control for absolutely everybody. And again, there's some good news here, is 7.2 is looking to do a great deal of things in order to make this system work. So right now in the game and going forward, you can equip 2 legendary items. The advantage of legendary items is they overinflate your item level. So if you are in the pug world, then that's helpful because your item level is way, way overinflated. And right now, the issue is that there's some that are very, very good and some that are pretty goddamn shit. So let's start with the good points then. Firstly, similar to the artifact knowledge catch-up, you get boosted pretty much to get your first couple of legendaries relatively quickly. To give some context to that, and some people will tell you horror stories of legendaries, but what we've seen is that this actually works out pretty goddamn perfectly for everybody, is your first legendary comes exceedingly quickly. You can get it in a very, very few attempts at legendary eligible content. This is where the horror stories come from for people who've been playing for a long time and don't have many legendaries, is they're not doing enough legendary eligible content. There's only certain content that has a chance to give you a legendary, right? So just being online or time doesn't have a factor in this whatsoever. You can't just stand in Dalaran and eventually a legendary is going to land in your lap. That doesn't happen. So we have things like chests, which you get from your daily world quest things, the emissary chest, your weekly chest, world bosses, raid bosses, finishing dungeons, finishing Mythic Plus dungeons. All of these things have a chance to actually give you a legendary. The more of them you do get a better chance the next time. If you don't get a legendary, you have a better chance of getting the next one. So your first 2 are boosted, so you get them pretty quickly. Okay, now the issue you might run into is you might get 2 bad ones. That's entirely possible, and after you get your first 2, you're on the treadmill like everybody else. Now, one thing to say here, 7.2 is going to do a valiant effort by Blizz to make sure there are no really bad legendaries. So if you get one that has a proc that is utterly useless, they're going to be adding a shitload more stats to it. Okay, so that will enable you to still get a huge benefit out of it. Good news. On top of that, they're adding craftable legendaries. So if you get unlucky or you don't do much content to get your second one, or you get 2 really bad ones, you can craft them in 7.2 using the systems in place, like the new, I don't want to call it a Tanan jungle because that's going to be really off-putting to a lot of people. The new island, let's call it that. But the new island is really fun. It is really fun. It's much better than what we saw with Snan Jungle. It's much more of a callback to the Mists of Pandaria, Throne of Isle of Thunder, Isle of Keldanas from TBC, if you're that old school, that kind of thing, okay? So you're going to be able to craft legendaries to flesh that system out and to get the balance that you officially need. So overall, those are the three things that people ask me about when they're thinking of coming back to Legion. It's like, how do I get gear? That's on you. Gear's on you. AP, not a big concern. You're going to be able to catch up super quickly, particularly now. 7.2 is pretty close. That should help you out. And the legendary system, we're all in the same boat, but it is getting better. It was definitely a mistake by Blizz on the legendaries, but it is getting better. So I hope that encourages you to at least think about it instead of like saying, well, it's impossible, I can't do it. All right, guys. Thank you so much for listening. Bye-bye.